Good afternoon. Welcome to Friday's edition. Friday's edition of Health First Living. We're just going to wait for everybody to show up that's interested today. Hi, Diane. How are you? I'm all blue today. Feeling all blue, feeling all blue. Hi, Michael. How are you? Hopefully some people are interested today in intermittent fasting. I put together a great presentation on this. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes, make sure everyone's settling in. Hopefully everyone is having a wonderful day. I'm not expecting a big crowd for intermittent fasting because it definitely is something that we need to, someone needs to focus on. And I've come to the conclusion. I'm good, Diane. How are you? Good stuff. Good stuff. I think you, Diane, do you dabble in intermittent fasting at all? I think you might. Today I'm going to basically touch on an overall, just a look at it, just some information about it, kind of create some paths that people can go down to research it more. So it's just going to be basically a walkthrough. That's pretty much what it's going to be today. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll get started. I don't know if I got a lot to cover, so I'm going to try and get through it all. So and this can be, if you come in late, you can go back and start at the beginning. That's why I'm not going to wait around on this. I'm going to get going on it. So what is intermittent fasting and how can it benefit you? And we'll touch on all that in this session. What is also important is this. I'm starting to do the hot water. Yeah, so hot water would be great. Like anything that really doesn't have any calories in it to start your day is really good. I'm not going to dive in right now what it is, but we're gonna progress into that as we go here. So hopefully this presentation works. It's something new for me. That's why I'm doing these presentations, so I can familiarize myself more with this software. That's kind of what I want to do. So, but first, you got to remember who is responsible for your health. And the big thing out there is there's so many people. I would say a large percentage of the people go to the doctors, and what they do at the doctors is they basically get their checkup, and then the doctor sends them away, and they think everything is fine. The FDA, Federal, Drug and Administration, gives a protocol to what a healthy diet is, and basically people try to follow that. Again, that's kind of shaded too, because as you dig deeper into what's good for you and what's not, you see that the balanced diet that the government suggests is maybe not the best thing for you. So, and that's where this comes into it. So basically, you are the one who is responsible. Hey, Mike, you are the one who is responsible for your health. You got to remember that. You are the one, nobody else. Unless you're a little child, your mom's looking after you. But when you get to a certain age, it's up to you what you put into your body and how you treat your body. And going to the doctors is a 5-minute moment in time that all he's going to do is basically check your blood pressure, make sure you're breathing all right. He's going to make sure, for one, you don't have a fever, you don't have a cough, you don't have all that. He's going to maybe send you for blood tests. Other than that, that's it. He may notice your blood sugar levels are high or your cholesterol levels are out. But other than that, you're on your own. And I know if I pull a muscle in my back, I don't go to the doctors. I go to the massage therapist. So you have to really make yourself accountable for your health and what you do. So, for example, if you drink a lot, you go to the doctors. He might tell you to cut back. If you tell him, I drink 4 or 5 drinks a night, he might not even tell you to cut back. He might say that, alcohol could be a problem. But a lot of times, they don't dig deep into that. And it's up to you to really fix these things. So I'm going to move on from here. So you are responsible. That's not me. That's not even a younger me. That's just a free me off of the internet, but you are definitely responsible. So where to start? Well, if you want to dig into the best healthy alternative other than what the doctor or the governments are telling you to do, you're basically going to turn to the web, you're going to turn to books, you're going to turn to videos, you're going to turn to trainers, you're going to turn to your friends, etc., or you might actually come here. This is not something I'm suggesting you run out and do. This is basically information that I am giving you based on my experiences, my opinions, and what has worked for me. Now, again, low carb diets, intermittent fasting may not work for everybody, but in general, they are probably the way to go if you're struggling with certain issues. So, this is the gentleman I turn to for intermittent fasting. He is a doctor out of Toronto, and he is the guy that you need to focus on if you want to understand what intermittent fasting is. Jason Fung. And so Jason Fung is a nephrologist, and I even had to look up what that is. So that's why I'm doing these presentations, because it forces me to look into what these terms are, the reasons why we might want to do something, and who these people are. So a neurologist is basically somebody, actually we get to that in a minute, but here he's a world-leading expert. He's a world-leading expert in intermittent fasting and low carb, especially for treating people with type 2 diabetes. He has written 3 best-selling books. I've read 1.5. I'm on my second one now. Nephrologist is a type of doctor that specializes in treating kidneys, and that's what he started off doing. But then he got into basically becoming an intermittent specialist, where he focused on people cutting back on what they eat, when they eat, and so on. So his knowledge is amazing. The audiobooks that I've been listening to are just full of information. Today I went for a walk with the dogs, and I actually had to go back and listen to chapter 1 again because I thought it was so good, just to try and soak up some of that information, but very easy to understand. So here is his first book that I read, The Obesity Code, and basically it talks about unlocking the secrets of weight loss, and basically intermittent fasting and low carb. And again, very good book to read, to listen to. Information is incredible. If you're struggling with weight or you're pre-diabetic, this book is definitely a must on your list. And it's not a massive thick book, so you can get through it, but definitely becomes an encyclopedia for you. This is the one I'm reading right now. It's basically taking the information from Obesity Code, but what he's done is he's teamed up with a scientist and basically a layperson and someone who went through a major transformation in their life. So basically you're getting the doctor's side of it, you're getting the scientist side of it, and you're getting the patient side of it, which is really good because as they go through each chapter, each one kind of chimes in and gives their point of view. So again, fantastic book on intermittent fasting, life in the fasting lane. So definitely give that a shot. So is IF new? So intermittent fasting is IF for short. Fasting has been therapeutical since at least back in the 5th century. Now, this is something Hippocrates had recommended back in the day for patients to get them to show an abstinence from food and drink, especially for patients that were exhibiting certain symptoms of illness. So basically, if someone was struggling with, let's say, stomach pains, they may have said, well, don't eat for 12 hours or 15 hours or a day. They're the kind of things that they may have been doing back then. They didn't have, obviously, the science to dig into what was going on in your blood and stuff like that, but there was obviously physical things happening to the body that by cutting back on eating would help. Even epilepsy. Epilepsy was first treated with fasting. And eventually they found out not eating for a long period of time wasn't extremely good for you. So then they basically brought in a keto diet, which meant that your body would run on ketones, which was better than running on carbs. And again, something for a completely different day discussion. But epilepsy was one of those things that fasting had helped. So basically, it is an eating pattern between periods of fasting and eating. So that's what it is. So intermittent fasting is, so for example, today, my last meal yesterday was at 8:30. I had my last meal. So let's, for argument's sake, let's say it was 9 o'clock. I only had coffee and water up until, I would say up until probably 3 o'clock. So 3 o'clock, had my, obviously I'm eating a keto diet, which you probably know. I had some keto bread with some salmon and avocado and mayo mixed in together. I had maybe 3 pieces of that. That was all I've had today, except for black coffee and water before that. So I went from 9 to, let's say, 3. That is 9, what is that, 12, add 6, 18 hours. So an 18-hour fast, I had no food. So here it is. Here's a 16-8. So basically, I'm doing an 18-6, I guess. So basically what you're doing is in the 16-8 that's shown here, you're getting all your meals within the 8 hours, which really is only needing 2 meals. You don't need to have breakfast anymore. So basically, I've eliminated breakfast from my diet. I do not have any food. Even when I was dabbling with bread, I was still really watching my intermittent fasting, though I must admit, I probably started getting hungry when I ate the carbs, so I kind of cheated on that. But most days, for me, it's at least 16 hours. So 16 hours for me for sure, for my fast. You can push it to 24, which I've done before, and not something I've done on purpose. What I've done is I've been out working, and I didn't have lunch, and I ended up working to maybe 4 or 5, and I'd come home, and I'd have my dinner and a dessert, and that would be it for me. So I have definitely done this 20-hour fast. So again, it's as you see here, you're going to see different examples of how to fast. So you can do a 24-hour fast where you would say you would have dinner and then you wouldn't eat again until you have dinner. People do that. That is good, certainly beneficial for certain health conditions. If you're, I mean, we can get into that, but you can read up on that. Certain health conditions may prefer this, but it's just good in general for your body. 5 to 2. Here's another one. People have gone 5 days fast. So this one here is you eat as per usual for 5 days and fast for 2 days. So you do a 48-hour fast. Some people have done a 7-day fast. Again, you can do all kinds of things, and you can tinker these diets. After you've done a few of them, you find out what works best for you as well. But we're gonna dig into why do we intermittent fast, and really it comes down to the hormone insulin. This is why we are doing it, because basically the hormone insulin is what's causing all our problems. It's causing our problems for those that have eaten too much over many years and got fat, and it's also causing those that you might not be fat yet, but you're eating a lot, and that's when the problem starts. So intermittent fasting is basically comes down to, in a nutshell, is controlling your insulin, and then by doing so, all the results are going to be health beneficial to you. So insulin's a hormone that helps your body absorb the sugar in your blood. So basically, the sugar is obtained from carbohydrates that you eat. So sugar, breads. You may eat a loaf of bread or a slice of bread. You might say, well, there's no sugar in it, but basically what's going to happen is that carbohydrate is going to be turned into sugar eventually. So you're not in the clear. It's kind of like the no fats when you drink a soda that says no fat. Well, what's going to happen is all that sugar in that pop is eventually going to be stored as fat. So this is a really interesting thing, and this was a big eye-opener for me. Now, all these things that I'm mentioning here, you could spend an hour talking about them just on their own. So the human body has about 5 liters of blood in it. That's kind of a trivia question. Most people know that, or roughly. But I guess your body's like engines, so the bigger you are, the more blood, vice versa. But one thing I'm finding is that this is really interesting. 4 grams of sugar in the blood. So there is 4 grams of sugar in your blood. That's the natural balance. So in 5 liters of blood, your blood balances out at 4 grams. But that's like less than a teaspoon of sugar. I think a teaspoon, maybe 5 or so. But so you go down after this, after watching this, you go down to your sugar jar and take out a teaspoon of sugar and say, this is what my body feels comfortable with, a teaspoon of sugar. Now, the American Diabetes Association draws the line between a healthy individual and someone being pre-diabetic based on 100 millimoles. I guess a millimole, I don't even know the terminology here. That's how new I am to a lot of these numbers. But basically, let's say a teaspoon of sugar, because you don't need to know all the fancy words. You just need to know a teaspoon of sugar. So if your body is holding more than a teaspoon of sugar in it at one time, you're pre-diabetic. That's what this is telling you. So you know that your body wants no more than a teaspoon of sugar. So for me, I interpretate that as any more than a teaspoon of sugar, you're poisoning yourself. That's the thing that I banged into my head. So let's take a glass of organic orange juice. This is 100% juice. You could say it is. This was organic. I got this. It says organic. Now, there's 33 grams of sugar in this 12-ounce bottle of orange juice. That means that there's only 165 calories, so that doesn't sound like a lot, but there's 33 grams of sugar. So let's take 33 grams of sugar here for a second. 33 grams of sugar in OJ organic, though, so it must be really good for you. 33 divided by 4, because we know 4 is the teaspoon. So that what happens is you're going to have, let's take 4 away from the 8.25. You've got over 7 times the amount of sugar all of a sudden in your bloodstream that your body wants. That technically is recommended to you, but they probably also told you that a glass of orange juice is really good for you. So yeah, you could say it's 8 times. It's really, if you work out the math, actually it is 8 times, because you've probably already got a teaspoon of sugar at least in your system. So that's very interesting to look at here. So a glass of orange juice, you drink the glass of orange juice, bang, you pretty much ODing your system on sugar. So technically, I say you've poisoned your body, so it's overloaded. So especially if you're not exercising, because if you're not exercising, your body's really not using the sugar. So right now, you're sitting on your couch, you're watching Netflix, you're bored, you're locked down. So you've had that glass of orange juice, and you're back to Netflix. So then you got to bring in the guard, because we know that if you got more than a tablespoon or a teaspoon, not tablespoon, teaspoon. If you've got more than a teaspoon, we got to get that sugar out of there. It's body saying we got to do something with this. So when you have more sugar in your body than it needs, insulin stores the excess amount in your liver and releases it when your blood sugar levels drop or when you need the sugar. So great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to store it. So let's say your liver's the refrigerator. So you've got all this extra sugar now. You know what? I've just had my glass of orange juice. Think of it as you've got this extra, you put it in the fridge. That's what happens. But the problem is, are you going to need it? You're not, because you're just sitting on the couch. So basically, what's going to happen is your refrigerator is going to fill up. So insulin is therefore the hormone that helps balance out your blood sugar levels and ensures that you stay within a healthy range. So basically, sugar comes in. You've eaten too much because you've had a glass of orange juice. Your body then says, okay, we got to get rid of it. The insulin troops come in. They take it out of your blood. They take it to your liver. And then from there, your body holds on to it for when you need it. So processing the fat is the key job of the liver. So once the liver is full, so here we go. Now the fridge is full. So you've been going out and you've been buying tons and tons of groceries and your fridge is full. What do you do with them? Well, we're going to stick them in the freezer, right? So the liver is full and it starts turning the glucose it absorbs from the blood into fatty acids for longer term storage as body fat. So your liver's full now because you know what? You went back and you had some chips and you had a chocolate bar. You probably consumed maybe in 2 hours. I bet there's people out there that are consuming in over 100 grams of sugar. Where you saw right there was a glass of orange juice, 12 ounces. Some people might pour a bigger one. So you drink that glass down because it tastes so good. You have a bag of chips. You have a chocolate bar. You could easily, in 2 hours, watching a movie, especially at a movie complex, because you buy that big buttered popcorn. And okay, there's no sugar in popcorn, but there is carbohydrates, and those carbs are going to be eventually stored to sugar. So we're constantly bringing this stuff in. So on a carb diet, sugar or glucose and stored glycogen is energy. But, and there's a very big but here, once you have too much of this, it is then stored as body fat, long-term storage. And that's how we get fat. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Basically, you eat it, your body can't use it, it has to be stored somewhere. And that's what I did. I used to do that. I look back at my past. Now, I'm a guy who's lived the experience. I've lived it. I did that. I probably started back when I was 25, packing away the food and not paying attention. 5 beers. 5 nicely craft beers or big pints, some Guinness, all this stuff. Maybe hamburgers. I'd have 2 hamburgers. I never had 1 hamburger. I had 2 hamburgers. But slowly I got fat. I was active at my job, but I got fat. And I ended up getting up to 230 pounds. So over time, I just packed it on. Now, basically, the reason I got fat was from everything I just explained. That's very basic, but that's what I did. So back to intermittent fasting. How will intermittent fasting help control this process? And intermittent fasting is probably the key to it. I think it's a big key to it. I mean, you can get into like amount of food you eat, what you eat, all of those things definitely play into this and are part of the parcel. But how will intermittent fasting help control this process? The entire basis behind Dr. Jason Fung's intermittent fasting idea is that the body exists only in 2 states. The fed state, which is high insulin levels, and the fasted state, low insulin levels. So you have 2 choices. If you're eating, you basically have high insulin levels in your blood, and if you're not eating, your insulin levels are low. So this is why his books are so good. I'm just taking little parts of what he said and basically throwing them out here. But it's just, I'm hoping to give you enough to go and check his book out and pay attention to this. He argues that when insulin levels are high, we are continually storing food energy, therefore fat in our liver and body. So if you're eating steadily through the day, so let's say, for example, you open, listen, let's not kid ourselves. There's people out there right now with a box of chocolate chip cookies on the counter. Let's say you go over and you break one in half because you don't want a whole one. You break one in half and you eat that cookie. There's enough sugar in there where you're going to have to call the insulin troops out to get rid of the sugar that you're putting in your bloodstream. So you go to work. Then 20 minutes or 40 minutes later, you feel like the other half of that cookie and you continue the process again. Now, this could go on and on. This could happen in the morning when you first get up. This could happen right at breakfast. You get up and you have, let's say, for example, you have a coffee, but you put 2 sugars and cream in it. That's going to kick insulin levels. That's going to get insulin out because now you remember, teaspoon of sugar in your coffee. Well, let's say we do double. So if you go to your coffee shop, which is now closed, but if you go there and you ask for a double, they're taking 2 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons into the cup. We've all done it. You take a spoon you take a tablespoon and scoop it, you get almost 2 tablespoons right there. So you're putting in 4 tablespoons. So 4 tablespoons of coffee or sugar in your coffee is probably equal to 4 times 3, 12, I would say like at least 15 teaspoons of sugar. That's just one. That's crazy. That's what you're getting in one double-double. Your insulin spiking, and then that's starting to get stored. So now your body's saying, listen, we only need a teaspoon, so let's stick this in the liver. We're going to need it later. Hey, it's early in the morning. This guy's going to have a busy day. But he's not, because he's locked down and he's sitting on the couch. So he's had his coffee, but now he wants breakfast. So now he gets his cereal out and eats his cereal, and he puts his milk and he puts his sugar on again. You're going to get insulin coming out, take away the sugar, and also the carbs in the cereal, because the cereal has sugar and carbohydrates. So it's not even, you haven't even been up 2 hours, and already you've put your body in a whirlwind of chaos. And then this goes on and on through the day. So you can see eventually your liver is going to get so full of sugar, it's going to have to start storing it away because you're not using it. It's just back to like the fridge. The fridge is full, but you keep buying groceries. You can't put them in the fridge, so now you're taking groceries out of the fridge and you're sticking them into the freezer, and the freezer is your belly. And that's where it's going, because you're putting it in the freezer for your meals later on. But the problem is we never get to those meals later on because we continue eating out of the refrigerator and buying more groceries for our fridge. And that's how you keep getting fat. The next minute, you're getting a bigger freezer, and the bigger freezer is a bigger gut. So this is a very simple way of looking at it. This is fact. I might not be relaying it in the best way possible, but it is fact. This is science. It's just, I'm just not a scientist or a doctor telling you. I'm just a guy who's 55 years old that's probably spent the last, 8 years of his life focusing on this very seriously. So I am experienced. I run my body, and it's like having a car for 7 years, and if you continuously work on the engine, after 7 or 8 years, you're going to know that engine inside out. So, comes that simple. So on the contrary, when insulin levels are low, he proposes that the body then switches to burning energy stores. So let's look at it this way. So now you stop getting groceries. You're not buying any groceries. Oh, well, let's see what's in the fridge. Well, if you keep eating from the refrigerator, like the liver, eventually you're going to have to go to the freezer because the liver is going to get emptied. So you can see where we're going with this. So remember, always use the grocery store, the refrigerator, and the freezer as the example of how your body works. Eating food is like going to the grocery store. Your liver is basically your refrigerator, and your fat cells, your stomach, is your freezer. So in Jason Fung's eyes, intermittent fasting enables the body to use its stored energy when insulin levels are low. So everybody's probably heard me talk about this before, but even with a keto diet, you're not eating sugar. The whole point of a keto diet is even when you're eating, you're keeping your insulin levels low. So ultimately, he proposes that if you follow a regular eating pattern, your body will continually be overwhelmed by high levels of insulin. If it does not burn, hold on, I got that mixed up there. So overwhelmed by high levels of insulin, it does not burn body fat. So basically, if you continue eating, back to the chocolate chips on the counter, you get up, you eat that, you have your breakfast, you have another coffee, double, you're constantly filling your body every half hour with something. You're never going to be using your fat cells unless you maybe exercise vigorously somewhere in there. But really and truly, if you keep eating like that, you're going to be constantly filling up your liver and filling up your fat cells. So that's where we're going here with this intermittent fasting. So is this the new way to eat? Not 3 meals a day. Well, I'm going to tell you that 2 meals a day is more than sufficient to live a healthy lifestyle. So basically, breakfast is gone for me. Breakfast means break fast. It's something you have when you break that fast. That's where the word comes from, break and fast. So, I mean, religions have been doing this for years. Cultures have been doing this for years. Lent, they don't eat they fast from sun comes up, they don't eat till sun goes down. There's their fast. So basically, I don't know if on Lent, I'm not even educated enough to know on whether in Lent that you would actually get up. If you got up before the sun rises, could you eat? Maybe you can, as long as the sun's not up. So that's how they do it. But anyways, when we do an intermittent fast, we're not eating from the time you finish your last meal at night right up until your first meal, whenever that is, depending on how you break down your fast timelines. So let's go over the benefits quickly. Intermittent fasting allows your GI tract to rest and repair while in a state of fasting. So what is a GI tract? GI sounds like G.I. Joe to me. So what is it? It's the GI tract contains the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, and your anus. So just think, if you're not eating between 18 hours, these items are going to get a break. These parts of your body are going to get a break. The liver, pancreas, and the gallbladder are the solid organs of the digestive system. So all these organs and parts of your body is playing a big role. If you're eating constantly, and if you're up till like 11 or 12 o'clock at night and you chow down a bunch of chips, your body is working through the night now. Your body doesn't shut down. It's like a 24-hour shop. But if you decide to have an 18-hour fast or a 16-hour fast, just think you're shutting down the factory. And we all know when you shut things down, it gets less wear and tear. So our body is now resting every day. It's repairing itself. So another thing is weight loss. Now your body can pull from the stored fat cells. So if you have those fat cells, which everybody has fat cells. Even if you have 10% lean body fat, you've still got fat cells. You can still find something to eat on your body. So basically, if you don't have food coming in, then your body is going to turn to those fat cells and create energy. So basically now it's going to go to the freezer. And this can happen every day if you intermittent fast. So human growth hormone. The blood levels of growth hormone may increase as much as 5-fold higher levels of this hormone facilitate fat burning and muscle gain. So the growth hormones basically are replenishing your body. When we're young and growing, we have a lot of growth hormone, and that allows our body to build it. It's how it gets twice the size, 3 times the size. And the thing is, as you get older, those levels get lower because you've stopped growing. But by intermittent fasting, you can bring those growth hormones alive, and you can build yourself back up. So technically, you can look younger by intermittent fasting and definitely eating healthier. By cutting out sugar, you can definitely look healthier. And when I look back of pictures of me 10 years ago, I think I look healthier now than I did back then. That could be my head playing mind games, but honestly, I really do think I look healthier now. I actually feel better. There are signs of aging, obviously, but I definitely feel better. So it's definitely drives me to do it. And I must say that when I was not eating great, I was making all that bread that you saw being posted on Facebook. When I was making and eating that, the reason I went back to doing a keto diet and really low carb was because I started feeling really crappy eating those carbohydrates to the point where I'm not doing it anymore. Even though that bread tasted good, there was enough force to go back to eating and dumping all that bread and going back to the low carb diet. So cellular repair. So basically now, a lot of waste builds up in your cells throughout the day. I guess you can call them free radicals. There's a lot of stuff going on in your cells. Your cells are like mini factories, and there's a lot of waste. And basically, intermittent fasting really allows your body to say, okay, listen, we got nothing else to do. Let's get rid of the garbage. You can think of it like that. You need time to take out the garbage, and your cells need time to repair. And when you shut down the factories, especially the ones that are storing all this fat and doing all that, you're definitely going to be, I mean, it's only obvious. I mean, really, this is not, you could call it science, but it's common sense when you start breaking down the walls of how it works. It really is common sense. So intermittent fasting can reduce insulin resistance, lowering the risk of type 2 diabetes. Now, there's a lot of people that are type 2 diabetic or have type 2 diabetes, and they have reversed type 2 diabetes, got rid of it by intermittent fasting. That simple. There's no drugs, I don't believe, that will reverse it. So you continue taking medication to control it. But by changing your diet, believe it or not, you can get rid of type 2 diabetes. It's something that you can do. You can control it, because what happens is when you're eating sugar all the day, if you're the guy who's eating those chocolate chip cookies all the time and those double coffees and those donuts and the meals, and you might say, oh, I got organic hamburger, so I'm having that for dinner. It's going to be healthy, but you put it on a couple of buns and you eat way too much protein because you've had 2 big burgers, and all that stuff's coming into your body. Your body is constantly using its insulin, and after a while, the body just gets fed up. It just can't keep up with it. It can't even produce enough insulin to get rid of the sugar that's in your blood. And that's when you get insulin resistance. So now your body isn't working right. It's not functioning. It just stops producing. You've got to start giving insulin to yourself. Now, don't get mixed up with a type 1 diabetes where the body from birth is not producing insulin. That's a completely different thing altogether. But type 2 diabetes is something that is basically brought on through diet. And as you know, many people in America, it's become an epidemic down there almost. Obesity is basically because people are eating way too much food, and as a result, they're getting type 2 diabetes. And terrible things come with diabetes. I mean, blindness, loss of limbs, and death. It's horrific. And it can be easily avoided by just changing your diet, just keeping your calories. If an average man ate a healthy diet, kept his calories to 2,000 and did some intermittent fasting and got some exercise, got some walking in, he could live a very healthy life. I mean, if you want to get into toning your body and getting a six-pack, that's all over and above that. We're just talking about living a healthy life. If you want to, get creative and fancy and all that kind of stuff, then knock yourself out. So insulin resistant, as we just touched, is when your muscles, fat, liver don't respond well to the insulin. So basically, the body is now taking the insulin. Is taking the insulin is now taking the sugar to your glucose to the proper places, but it's just not working. It's not happening. It's not dropping it off. It's not accepting it. So it's staying in the blood. So that's when you get the high blood sugar levels and stuff like that. So again, that's the insulin resistance, when the insulin is just not working, and in some cases may not even produce it. It just turns into a mess. It really does. You could spend a whole day, you could read a whole book on insulin resistance just to find out what's going on with it. It's just crazy. So another thing is reduce oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. Yes, I always say that inflammation in the body is really caused to sugar. You might as well think about it again. If you just think about the sugar you're eating is causing inflammation in your body, that's a great way to look at it. I've spent time watching many videos. One of the things I got from some videos was back in when I was 48, I was on cholesterol pills, very mild, 0.1 or 0.10 or whatever they call it. I was taking a small amount just to control my cholesterol. I did that for about a year and a half, and then that's when I finally changed. And when I was 48, I changed, and I stopped taking it. But when I started researching it, I started finding out that we're trying not to, basically when you take a cholesterol pill, it's lowering the amount of cholesterol you produce. But the problem I found through what I researched was, and in my opinion, is that you're arteries are inflamed from the sugar, inflamed from all the body fat. There's so much inflammation and stress on your arteries that they've closed down. So they're closing in. And the cholesterol is one of those chains that's kind of like a branch, like a real branch on a tree. It jumps out everywhere. So when that's traveling through the bloodstream, it gets caught up. It's like a big log going down a small river. Eventually it gets caught up. And then what happens? Everything else catches onto it. So basically, by taking cholesterol pills, the idea is you stop putting those branches down the river. But those branches are actually good for you, let's say. Cholesterol is something we do need. But the idea is if you reduce the sugar and then you reduce the inflammation and you reduce the fat around the arteries, the artery opens up. So now the cholesterol can flow through. So that through my education on my own, through YouTube and reading books and looking into it, that's what I feel has happened to me, and that's what I go with. So I haven't reduced my cholesterol. If anything, eating a keto diet, sometimes I could have 3 or 4 eggs a day, mayo, on top of that, butter, cheese. I'm eating a lot of cholesterol or foods with cholesterol in it. And I was in January when I went to get my blood tested. I had my cholesterol levels. They were excellent. For a 55-year-old, they were right in the green, right in the perfect spot. So, yeah, I was very pleased with that because I hadn't been for a couple of years to have my blood tested. But this time when I went, I did Life Labs. And what I did was I got all my results. I printed them out, and I went on the internet, and I looked up all the facts and stuff like that. So Jason's got a comment here. Jason Fenton, for all you that let me get me in the right spot here. I'm going to put this up here because Jason says intermittent fasting has been a game changer for him. Well, let me tell you. Hold on, I've done something here. Hold on. What have I done? I can see myself 100 million times here. So, I've done something to my screen because I tried to get creative. Can you guys see me in 100 million ways there? Oh, what have I done? I knew this was going to happen here. So I got to go down to do something here. Let's get rid of Jason. Oh. I have screwed up my layout here, and I don't know what I did. Oh, maybe I'm back. I've got a screen on now. Okay, I have everything. I have all my messages here. So I'm going to close out this window here, quit that window, and I think I'm coming back here. What have I done? What have I done? Hang with me, folks. I think I lost my presentation and all of that. How about that? That's not it. That's not it. I'm going to bring it back in. So, anyways, I can finish off this because I think we got pretty good. We're at let me see if I can bring it in, actually. Let me see if I can get this right. You like this screen better? I got to remember how I brought that screen in, actually. I know how I did it. I did it like this. I did it like that. So, check this out. This is this is what happens when you do it live. So we were here, I think, and Jason was talking until I got all fancy and wanted to bring Jason's comment in, and there we go. And now I get more people watching because I messed around. So the stress. So one of the other things that I find really interesting and I've been reading into lately is how not only intermittent fasting, but low carb and also keto can benefit those suffering from cancer and also help prevent cancer. Now, it's important to state that it's mostly experimental science right now, or basically looking at some basic studies, but there's been work done in mice that has shown keto working to help bring down cancerous cells. And the reason I use keto is because it is extremely low carb, and it will definitely help with your insulin release. So this to me is extremely positive because I'm 55 years old. I have never had cancer. At least, I mean, we don't know if we have cancer. It's something that can creep up on you. I have in the past worked with a lot of toxic chemicals in my industry. So, and I'm being honest with you here, I frequently think about, have I dodged a bullet with how, I work in my workplace, especially when I was spraying, lacquers and stuff like that. Like, you wear a mask, and I think we all know wearing a mask is something that you're often not going to put on at the right time or the wrong time, or you forget it, or, you take it off to talk to somebody, but you're in that environment where the chemicals are. So I have definitely sucked in more toxic chemicals than I need to. So one of the reasons why I think it's important for me to experiment with definitely intermittent fasting and also keto is because it can potentially lower the risk of getting such things as cancer. Now, some of the things, I'll just throw some of the things out there. What I've read is, even if you do get cancer, keto can repress it. It can hold it at bay, because cancer is random. It just kind of pops its head up. Obviously, it's provoked through certain things, like obviously bad diet, bad lifestyle. But it is random, but you've got a higher chance of it spreading or getting it if you're kind of participating in these toxic things like smoking, drinking, eating poorly, and whatnot. And just not even getting enough sleep can increase the possibilities. So cancer cells live on sugar, which I've just been reading up on. And I find that extremely interesting because I didn't really understand how cancer cells, got their energy. And it is through basically sugar in the blood, through feeding off of that. The thing is, especially with brain cancer, if you cut off the food to cancer in the brain and you're on a keto diet, you starve the cancer and kill it. And this is what they're finding in mice. So to me, this is extremely interesting stuff. So as a prevention to lower the possibility of getting cancer, a low carb and intermittent fasting diet will definitely help. And if you want to kick it up, you can do a keto diet as well, because some of the benefits you see here, it says right here, showing fasting has reduced side effects of chemotherapy. So if you're having chemotherapy, chemotherapy treatments by intermittent fasting, it could reduce the side effects that you're getting from that. So again, that's something to look into, and that's not something I can advise what to do, but I can suggest, hey, I've read it and you should check it out. So definitely something to think about. If you are at all, if there's something you can do to prevent COVID-19, you do it. You stay home for a month. We're doing it right now because we don't want to get it. I know we've been told to stay home, but we're staying home so we don't get a virus. Well, what if I said, well, why don't you skip breakfast and just eat a low-carb diet and you could maybe you could lessen the chances of getting cancer, would you do it? And I think you would say to yourself, yes, but then again, you got to put that into practical terms, and you've got to apply it, and you've got to do it. So, but definitely for me, I've taken that step. So not only I'm not really in it for weight loss now. I'm at 180 pounds. So, I mean, I'm basically turning fat to muscle right now because I think I gained a pound in the last week, but that's okay because I feel slimmer. But I ran faster today than I did all the other times. So my muscles are bigger. I'm able to go faster. That's why I'm heavier. So my engines got bigger, but there's less baggage. So to close, take a personal challenge and look deeper into your health. That's the reason I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for any other reason than to hopefully encourage a few people out there to take it more seriously, take their health more seriously, put their health first. The other reason I do this is so that I can put myself in this situation where I have to, for an hour, explain this to you. I can see, I can put my knowledge under a microscope, and I can see where I'm struggling with certain things. What more do I need to know in order to understand this better? I feel I've got a good grasp on intermittent fasting, but there's so much more I'd like to know about it. I'd like to dig deeper into the weeds to understand more. I'd like to know more about how the liver actually does process it. I know I can say that the liver turns the glucose to fat, sticks it in the thing, but it's nice to know a little bit more. I mean, even knowing that's one thing, but I'd like to know more. And, people ask me questions, and it kind of forces me to do this. So basically, take my opinion and explore it. That's what I'm telling you to do. Resources. Jason Fung. Obviously, I showed 2 books in this little presentation on Jason Fung, his books, and also Dr. Berg on YouTube. This guy is fantastic. He's easy to listen to. He's extremely knowledgeable, and he focuses basically on all these topics, keto, low carb, intermittent fasting, and he digs into how things are working. He breaks it down into small videos. He's extremely knowledgeable. I definitely suggest you go and subscribe to Dr. Berg on YouTube. Jason Fung has videos out there too. You can see some of his presentations. And if you want, you can follow us on Health First Living. I basically put videos, books. I just share information there. I put recipes that I make, some videos of me making stuff. That's all it is. It's just basically, instead of blogging down my personal pages, I stick it over there. So if anyone is focused on wanting to know more about Health First Living, I put it there. And that's basically it. So thanks for struggling along with me today, and hopefully you got something out of it. And thank you for being a guinea pig to my presentation. It was a lot of fun. So I'm out of here, and tomorrow we are making low-carb wraps on Facebook live at 7. We're having a tortilla tapas party. So thanks, Diane. Hopefully there's something in there. If anything, it will just motivate us a bit more to continue doing healthy things for our bodies. All right, Tim, thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you real soon. I'll talk to you about Tuesday night. We got something cool planned. So anyways, thanks a lot, guys. I'm going to go now and chill. See ya.